Hello everyone, this is RC57. We're back in another episode of the Journeyman Project 2 variant time. Just post commentary because kinda had to because the audio didn't actually record. Sorry about being a day late. There was a power outage that lasted when I was gonna do this. Lasted all night. So yeah. We go right back into INET, we're not waiting. We're playing in adventure mode. As you can see at the top, it'll always tell you that when you boot in. It'll also tell you other things, but haven't been really mentioned. Last episode, we went over the Agent 5 breaks house arrest and the Sinclair incident 10 years later. We're now going into Symbiotry technology discussions. We still have the Louvre auction raises 138.5 billion credits, which we'll read next episode.
INN will return after word from our sponsor. La peinture fraîche.
Jote Latzande. Sasta Gorsht.
If you hadn't understood those important messages, you would have just
Wet paint.
screwed up your best suit,
Flippity Van
driven off of a cliff,
Cheap meat.
been poisoned,
Restaurant smoking in the lobby.
and peed your pants on a foreign planet. Yes, for all those reasons and more, there's the Omniglot DM dual mode translator biochip from Samco. Just pop the Omniglot DM into any standard biotech interface and voila! No more frustration, no more confusion. The Omniglot DM instantly translates the written and spoken forms of any known language. It does it all. The Omniglot DM translator biochip from Samco. Get it today.
Samco Translator Biochip available at Frugal's and other fine stores for a low price of $199.90 or order over ShopNet. Product order code 689-22378. That's 689-22378. Order now.
We need that. We need that. We gotta get that later because that will help us. It's not required, but it's best to have it. And yeah, we are gonna get it. So write down that number. That's more important than the first.
The heads of ministry will continue to meet with Symbiotry representatives today in the Assembly Hall of the United Ministry Complex. These talks were requested by several member races as a forum in which to discuss the place of time travel technology in the symbiotry of peaceful beings. Today marks the beginning of the third week of negotiations, yet there is still no end in sight. Sarah Michaels is standing by at the United Ministry Complex with a report.
Let's go to that report.
Thank you, Mark. The main factor protracting the discussions is the inability of the Symbiotry to decide what should be done with the technology. The representatives have formed three distinct factions whose strongly opposing views have caused them to remain tenaciously entrenched in a deadlock. While one group believes we are committing the unforgivable act of hoarding a vital technology, a second supports the Symbiotry tenet that each race has sovereignty over its own technologies. The third contingent, which has grown in strength since the arrest of Agent 5, contends that time travel represents a threat to every race of the Symbiotry and should be destroyed altogether. Even though most attending races strongly disagree with humanity's sole ownership of the technology, our heads of ministry refuse to acknowledge their arguments, citing its inevitable misuse as their foremost concern. Therefore, barring Symbiotry action, it is unlikely that the status of time travel as a proprietary technology of Earth will change.
Interesting. Got 4 parts to read, and there's a lot here. Let's start with Beal for sharing.
The opinion originally held by the majority of races represented at the talks is that time travel technology is an invaluable tool for self-discovery and, as such, should not be denied to any race. However, the Loxoni abandoned this position last week in favor of destroying the technology. Presumably, this sudden change of opinion was due in large part to the arrest of Agent 5, an unfortunate illustration of the danger of time travel.
Real quick, we'll go over the Loxoni. Loxoni is biologically unlike anything known to humanity. Loxoni are perfectly adapted for life on a rogue multi-orbital planetoid as their home world careens through deep space from one solar system to the next. Changes in gravity and temperature stretch and crack its tortured surface, creating gaping fissures leading deep into its crust. It is these hellish caverns that the Loxoni lovingly refer to as home. They live in total darkness. The Loxoni have highly developed ultraviolet light, which allows them to navigate the caves and to communicate via changing light patterns, which emanate from between the rocky plates that cover their body. They have the ability to focus these beams of UV light for long-range communications and for... Wrong button. Right button. Identify various types of minerals. It is the mainstay of their diet. The powerful projecting mandibles of the Loxoni serve to both crush your food and clear patches through the caverns. They also use their mandibles for other labor-intensive tasks, although they have several prehensile appendages tucked away between their plates. They lack the benefit of hearing. Medical records show that they have once had eardrums, but they are very sensitive to sonic vibrations. Neat. The Loxoni are highly moralistic and very social beings, living in tight-knit communities which all share the responsibilities of daily life, including raising their young. They're also very religious. Loxoni creation accounts tell of a lone supreme being who fashioned the entire universe, but feeling it an empty act, decided to give the rocks life so that its beauty could be appreciated. One very likely explanation for their beliefs is the lack of a single other life form on their planet. Obviously, the Loxoni's presence there is a great mystery to everyone but themselves. The Loxoni technological revolution was born of necessity. Increasing population and changing conditions in the planet's core forced them to seek new ways to survive in their environment. First anti-gravity vehicles were developed for surveying the massive crevices for food, shelter, and other basic needs. From there was a small step into space where the Loxoni discovered that they are not alone. Home planet, Loxon, rogue multi-orbital planetoid. Atmospheric gravity is methane, ammonia, 65 Gs, 0.78 Gs, 0.65 Gs, blah. Ideal temperature is negative 18 Celsius, plus or minus 100 degrees. Site is UV band 6. Vibration sensitivity, communication, changing light patterns, gestures, writing. Preferred dye is minerals, and transport prefix is 116. You'll get this for every single planet and race we talk about. Strap in. This is what the bulk of the episode is going to be, is finding out about all the races in the Symbiotry, because there is some use to this. There will be a quiz later.
The opinion originally held by the Dorloon and Zangtrakar, on the other hand, have continued to cling tightly to their convictions. They are of the opinion that this technology is far too important to be buried because of paranoia. Time travel, the Zangtrakar argue, is like any other powerful tool. It represents a danger only if the user doesn't have the insight to take the proper precautions. And if care is taken, there should be no reason whatsoever to fear what should be the greatest advance the Symbiotry has ever known.
Going into the Dorloon now. These slow-moving, docile creatures are super intelligent by human standards and in fact spend most of their time contemplating, theorizing, and intellectualizing with themselves. That is, the Dorloon have complex multi-level brains, each level of which is capable of carrying on a completely different line of thought, and even possessing different personalities. The Dorloon can, according to the latest analysis, be thinking of about 34 things at the same time. Some species will use this range to accomplish a variety of tasks simultaneously. The majority consider this frivolous, however, and often devote almost all the lobes to the same matter. Some of the lobes may even be contemplating themselves or the other lobes at work. The amount of geometrical intellectual activity at any given moment is staggering, outperforming most known computers. That must be fun. That must be a lot of fun. Could you imagine 34 voices going on in your head at the same time? It is not surprising that the Dorloon spend so much time thinking that they accomplish little else in the physical world. They have evolved past the need for written or spoken language and rely solely on telepathy. Telepathic communication with Dorloon can prove an overwhelming and even painful barrage of thought for some other species, should the Dorloon involve more than a few lobes in a conversation. Thus, they are constantly practicing the art of singular, linear thought for the purpose of diplomatic discourse. Oh god, it's all Congress in your head! Not that one. For all their vast intellectual and philosophical achievements in the Dorloon are surprisingly primitive with their technology. As is a low priority for them, when the Symbiotry discovered them in Earth year 1389 AD, they had not even achieved interstellar travel. Nonetheless, they are invaluable problem solvers and philosophers. It is thought that they may have evolved from groups of intelligent organisms somehow, bonding together to form one. Thus, they are quite capable of keeping themselves entertained, as they are never truly alone. Nice. Dorloon lifespan is about 200 to 250 Earth years, and they reach physical and mental maturity around 50 Earth years. Their nutritional needs are satisfied by the micro-rich glutinous solution that covers 96% of their native world surface. They need little shelter and no sunlight. They do not see as we understand it, but are able to sense molecular densities around them through a complex series of electron radiatory organs located throughout the body. They hear in much the same way, interpreting complex particle movements. Though their wisdom and thought are universally respected, no one can really claim to fully understand these gentle sentients. Their true motivations and desires remain a mystery. That sounds like a fun race. Home planet, the second planet of Orpheus solar system. Hydrogen carbon dioxide atmosphere, gravity is 1.86 G's, ideal temperature 43 degrees Celsius, close to minus 30. Sensory perception, electroradiatory echoing, auditory particle wave detection, extreme touch sensitivity, communication, telepathy, form manipulation, and detection. For diet, mostly vegetarian, some fish and fowl, and transport prefix 361. Electroradiatory, me.
The Dorloon and Zangtrakar.
Zangtrakar! This is one of the more suspicious members of the Symbiotry. I'm gonna have fun with this. They are archetypal pragmatists and are members of the Symbiotry only because they feel they may profit them. For those reasons, their membership is often a subject of dispute among other races. This is gonna get fun. This is the one other I'm gonna have fun reading. But yeah, Zang has that old flesh and wine sound to it. As of yet, however, the Zang would take no provocative actions that would lead to forcible banishment from the Symbiotry. Humans of the Zang appear much like hyperactive insects, always chattering and scheming, or so it would seem. It's an Edwin. They share only what they do not need, but there's often a price. The technology is highly advanced, and it was their scientists who originally pioneered thought field articulation mechanics. Aside from humans, they have a great name. And also, most actively pursue time travel technologies. Though more often than not, their experiments have ended disastrously. The Zhang are a prolific race and they reproduce spontaneously by fragmentation. Most previous wars have actually increased their population. They're highly resistant to extreme temperatures but are prone to spontaneous combustion in oxygen-based atmospheres. Luckily, their skills have allowed them to perfect highly durable and efficient environmental suits and chambers for the purposes of exploration and diplomacy. They see and hear much like humans, except much higher bandwidths. To us, their speech sounds like indiscriminate screeches and clicks. Those translators are needed. Neither humans nor Zang can articulate the other's language. And every time I did that, one can spontaneously combusted. One planet practices the fourth planet of the big gross solar system. Atmosphere, helium, 0.75 Gs. Ideal temperature 3 degrees Celsius plus or minus 50. Sensory perception, sight, indigo band to UV band 3. Taste, smell, auditory 10 kHz to 15 kHz. Communication, vocal 12 to 13 kHz range. Pictograph writing. Preferred diet, vegetarian, roots, and small shrubs. Transport prefix 570. I know I'm reading this kind of quick. I gotta get through 30 minutes of this at least for this episode, so if you need to have more time, pause.
The Dorloon and Zangtrakar. Perhaps Brandon Farlink, the Dorloon emissary, stated the feelings of these two races most eloquently. At long last, he said, we can all be in touch with our pasts. Each race can now know the truths of its history. No longer must time be wasted with painstaking research and endless conjecture, only to arrive at an uncertain understanding of the events that shaped history. The answers, all the answers, lie within our reach if only we have the will to grasp for them.
Feel for denial time.
Despite being recently abandoned by the Kryn, two of humanity's staunchest supporters, the Sorolans and the Tsar, have continued to defend our right to autonomy over time travel technology. Like those that favor dismantling it, these two races would rather leave their past buried than risk losing it altogether. But unlike the others, the Sorolans and Tsar believe that humanity harbors a maturity beyond its years and can be entrusted with preserving the sanctity of history.
Kryn. The Kryn are one of the most recent additions to Symbiotry. The circumstances for their induction are quite unique. When Symbiotry discovered them on their Aquacotan world centuries ago, they were a non-tool using race, having not naturally developed any opposable or prehensile limbs, however. Because the Kryn were deemed to be highly intelligent and mentally evolved, the Symbiotry decided, not unanimously, to grant them the use of prosthetic appendages, could they so desire. In an effort to expand their role in this newly discovered universe, the Kryn accepted this artificial advancement, in a sense continue their pursuit of new advances to assert their place in the universe. The Kryn can be likened to most of the dolphins of Earth, possessing streamlined bodies which allow them to glide through their fluid. Environment. Because of their environmental needs, there are now liquid tanks at all Symbiotry and embassy facilities to accommodate Kryn emissaries. The Kryn site is based on sensitivity to Klagmar radiation, which occurs naturally in the home world. In addition to their innate senses, their cybernetic implants further extend their sensory awareness. Their hearing is very similar to that of humans, and they often communicate vocally within a human audible frequency range. Home planet, Aquion, second planet of the Donmar solar system. Atmosphere, water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, 0.37 Gs. Ideal temperature, 10 degrees Celsius, plus or minus 10. Sensory perception, sight, Klagmar radiation, acute smell, taste, auditory, 5 kHz, 12 kHz. Communication, vocal, 11 kHz range. For a diet, fish, mostly small creatures, small crustaceans, and transport prefix 272.
Despite being recently abandoned,
the Sorolans, or as we like to call it, Dr. Sinclair's favorite tree. The oldest race of Symbiotry, these noble creatures are also instrumental in its inception. They are widely respected throughout the galaxy for their wisdom and science, as well as their generosity and foresight. They possess keen, prescient abilities, who do not allow precondition to affect their actions or the natural. We'll get back to that in a second. But you can read it here if you need to. There's the pause for you. Yeah, not too sweet, really a treat. Dr. Sinclair's favorite thing for number 1, the natural progression of streams. Instead, they are watchers, learners, and strong advocates of self-determination. They'll always offer sage advice, but will never intervene on another race's affairs. They seem to share a particular bond with humans, the youngest and newest race is Symbiotry, finding them a most promising and precocious race, despite their brief and passionate lives. The biological lifespan of the average Sorolan is not known, but most Rollins usually exist for about 3,000 to 5,000 Earth years. Once they tire life, they'll gestate a new organism and pass all their accumulated thought, memory, and wisdom onto the offspring in a long and quiet ritual, which culminates in their deaths. Thus one could say Rollins never actually die. They just change bodies every few thousand years. They're like the Doctor. In addition to their present and telepathic awareness, the Rollins have heightened sensory perception of space, sound, and energy. They perceive light and particle radiation in all frequencies as well as sound and pressure waves, subspace activity, and even temporal shifts. The Rollins are physically quite similar to humans, only much larger. This has led to some speculation about evolutionary relationships between the two species, but the Rollins are hesitant to discuss this subject, fearing that we discover our past ourselves. But we do have time machines. Home planet Cyril, 5th planet of the Galena solar system. Atmosphere/gravity, oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, 0.89 Gs. Ideal temperature, 25 degrees Celsius, plus or minus 10. Sensory perception, sight, light particle radiation, subspace, and temporal wrist sensitive, auditory, 50 Hz to 10 kHz. Communication, telepathic, vocal, and writing. For diet, seafood, some reptiles, fruits, and vegetables. Transport prefix 707.
Despite being recently
Now
abandoned,
the SAR are almost unanimously considered to be the most whimsical members of Symbiotry, and they have a great name as well. They are a heterogeneous race ranging from 0.25 meters to as large as 6 meters. These size variances are completely overlooked by the SAR, and they are very fraternal with each other. Probably the most unusual trait of the SAR is their ability to adhere to any surface in any orientation, gravity or no. You're easy to spot at a Symbiotry meeting. They're the ones sitting on the floors and walls. This phenomenon is best explained as kind of organic magnetism, which their cells modify their natural magnetic polarities to complement whatever material they come in contact with. Not surprisingly, Saurian architecture is a spectacle to behold, as every surface has been prepared to be seen and occupied from multiple orientations. Also not surprising is the Saurian predisposition for practical jokes, especially at the expense of other races. The Saar are highly social and are very curious about other races and technologies, though they respect other races' right to privacy and strongly maintain their own. They are generally considered to be vain and are often seen adorned in ornate and extravagant outfits. Their decorating tastes are equally lavish, and they have a palate for precocious collectibles from other cultures. Though native Saurian art, architecture, and above all festivities are renowned throughout the galaxy. Unlike many races, they have also advanced their biotechnologies to the point where they no longer need food to survive, and are in effect completely self-sufficient. However, they still enjoy the sensory and social rewards of consumption, and are always seeking new and more extravagant cuisine. These guys are just fun. The Saar locomote via a multitude of pseudopodia, radiating from all directions of their body. Their sensory perceptions are highly accurate, and they can see and hear in a broad range of frequencies, allowing for communication with almost any other race. Home planet, Saar, the 8th planet of the Orison solar system. Atmosphere is nitrous oxide at 1.46 Gs. Ideal temperature, 27 degrees Celsius, plus or minus 7. Sensory perception, sight, IR band 5 to UV band 3. Smell, taste, auditory 10 Hz to 15 kHz. Communication, tone-based vocalization, music like writing. For diet is self-sufficient, and transport prefix is 930.
despite being recently abandoned. In fact, they suggest that our closeness to our violent past makes us even better suited to manage time travel, as the dire consequences of the misuse of technology still stain our racial memory. Unfortunately, theirs is a minority opinion. The prevailing response to this argument is that Earth's record with time travel speaks for itself. In just 10 years, there have already been incidents of deliberate historical sabotage, the latest of which allegedly involving an agent of the Temporal Security Agency. Our benefactors, however, dismissed the Elliott, Sinclair, and Gage Blackwood incidents as aberrant acts by disturbed individuals rather than a weakness of humanity as a whole. And they ask, as a sign of good faith and trust in the newest member of the Symbiotry, that the future of time travel technology be left to our discretion.
Symbiotry, the Symbiotry of peaceful beings, is also referred to as the Symbiotry. It's a consortium of peaceful races from throughout the galaxy who have come together for the purpose of sharing technology and culture. Earth was admitted into the Symbiotry in November 2318.
Our benefactors, however,
Oof.
in fact,
And
the third viewpoint, which was originally held only by the Unmo, is that the existence of time travel technology represents a threat to the history of every race in the Symbiotry. For this reason, these races feel that all existing time machines should be completely dismantled. Following the arrest of Agent 5, the Loxoni changed their allegiance from petitioning for the release of time travel technology to requesting its destruction.
I'm gonna have fun. Little's known about the Unwa, and they can only sparsely be generalized about. Every Unwa is different from the others in psychology because each one evolves differently and is in fact always changing. In this respect, they can hardly be classified together as a race at all. As their only shared quality seems to be the ability to have another great name I forgot about, this group. But yeah, the Unwa have the ability to change. Not to be confused with shape-shifting organisms, the Unwa modify their psychologies by direct response to immediate environments, as well as by absorption of other local materials and is suspected other creatures and physiology. Lifespan and reproduction practices of the Unwa, if any, are a complete mystery to all but them, as they are nutritional, social, and psychological needs. They are very secretive about their origins and their habits, but are nonetheless valuable contributors to Symbiotry. We speculate that the Unwa may have been engineered by another race, but this theory cannot be substantiated. The Unwa are nomadic beings not claiming any homeworld or place of origin. They often travel alone or in clans of 3 to 5, but are somehow always aware of the locations of others of their kind. They are timid, almost to the point of hermitry, but are quite friendly once they have established trust. Still, their secretive nature makes them paranoid, and they do not like to be in the company of non-Unwa for extended periods of time. Home planet unknown, curly seat of representation on Zulang, the first planet of the rest of the solar system. Atmosphere gravity not available. Ideal temperature 46 degrees Celsius, plus or minus 15. Sensory perception and communication varies by individual. Preferred diet is unknown, and transport prefix for them right now is 894.
The third viewpoint, they were joined by the Kryn, for whom this represents a break in their long-standing tradition of fervently supporting every race's right to sovereignty over its own technologies. The Loxoni now proclaim that if not destroyed, the technology must at the very least be put in the safekeeping of an elder race of the Symbiotry. They cite security as their main concern.
Green we've already read. We read that at the start of the episode, so yep.
They were joined by the Kryn. Like the others that share their goal, they feel that humanity lacks the necessary discretion to control such a powerful tool. As a side note, it should be mentioned that the Loxoni themselves are among the eldest races of the Symbiotry.
And one last thing to read. The results.
Despite the arguments made by the Symbiotry envoys, the general opinion of the heads of ministry so far appears unswayed. Michael Rozhenko of the Northwest Asia Collective rebutted that the danger of time travel falling into the wrong hands and being used to change history, however slight, is still too great to even consider releasing the technology. It must be realized that time travel has not only the power to unlock the secrets of history, but also unparalleled potential for destruction. few could argue that it would be foolish to give such a tool to anyone, regardless of its intended use. On the other hand, it's also too late for it to be destroyed, as was pointed out by Chancellor of Law Rick Allen, when he stated that the technology has already been created and can therefore be recreated. Chancellor Allen emphasized his point by attesting that if all known time travel technology were destroyed and a new time machine built without government knowledge or approval, there would be no way to intervene in the actions of the illicit time traveler. He would have free rein to rewrite history to his liking. Unfortunately, such scenarios are all too likely, as was proven by the Elliott Sinclair incident and the current trial of Gage Blackwood.
And that's the end of that. That's all for the Symbiotry technology discussions. Next episode, we're going to do the Louvre auction, raises 138.5 billion credits. I'm getting the episode here. I hope you have fun. And I'll see you on the next one. See you then.